Hey folks, welcome back to another video with yours truly, Sam Healey. Now today, we're going to be looking at Zombicide Green Horde. This is a standalone expansion for Black Plague. It can be used in conjunction with Black Plague. It can be played on its own. So there are some differences that I'm going to be talking about, and I will be giving a kind of review on those differences afterwards. It's kind of a hybrid what's in there review video, but hopefully you'll understand that as we go through it. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get down to the table and show you what you're going to get. You're first of all going to be getting no less than 72 different models, and those are all represented up here and over here. And then you're also going to be getting 6 dashboards for each of the different players that are coming. All of the pieces that are necessary for that, including the hero bases and all that good stuff. A whole bunch of cards for the item deck and the zombie deck. Then, of course, you have the dice here as well. For that, you are going to be getting, of course, all of these different things that are required for play, the noise markers, the different objective markers, the different spawn zone markers, door markers. You're also going to be getting some new barriers that are used in different ways, and we'll get into that in just a few moments. And then these are actually double-sided. You got barriers on one side and hedges on the other. And of course, we'll talk about the new rules that are in place for hedges in just a few moments as well. You will be getting, of course, 4 Dragon Bile tokens, and then you're going to be getting no less than 9 double-sided boards for constructing the different scenarios that come in the book. So this is very similar to what you found in a retail edition of Zombicide Black Plague. It can be combined with Black Plague and played together, so there is that. So let's go ahead and get to some of the main differences between Zombicide Black Plague and Green Horde to show you what is new. So the first real difference between Black Plague and Green Horde is the fact that in Black Plague, you have just regular human zombies, which are nasty to begin with, yes, of course, but they're not nearly as strong as the orc zombies that are in Green Horde. They're doing you more damage. Regular zombies are all doing you 2 damage instead of just 1. The orc fatties and abomination are doing you 3 damage whenever they hit you instead of just 2 as before. The runners over here, these 2 in front, are the same. Basically, they are going to be activating twice per round. They deal 1 damage. They only take 1 damage to kill as well. So the runners are still basically like your regular human runners in Zombicide Black Plague. The Necromancer also does 2 damage so when he hits you. So that is also a little bit more tough than the human counterparts in Black Plague. A couple of other differences in the activation deck for the zombies is that you have this idea of the horde assembling off the board. So for example, when you flip over one of these cards, you look at what level one of your characters is at, or actors, and that's how many zombies are going to come out on the board. But over here, you have a +1, +1, +1, and so forth. That means that you also add 1, for example, in blue level here, you add 1 Orc Walker to the horde off the board. And then there are also these cards here, which is called Enter the Horde, which means that whenever you draw that card for a spawn zone, the horde that has been assembling by adding these extra ones to it, every time one of these cards is turned over, that group of zombies will come to wherever, whichever spawn zone this card was turned over for. Additionally, the Orc Necromancer, in addition to having a a new spawn zone come up and an activation for that spawn zone. He will also add 1 walker, 1 fatty, and 1 regular runner to the Horde whenever that happens. Another difference between Black Plague and Green Horde is that Green Horde comes with a trebuchet model that takes part in every quest that is in the book, of which there are 11, including 1 introductory quest, and then 10 normal quests. If a actor or hero is standing in the same zone that the trebuchet is in, you can activate the trebuchet and fire it at anywhere on the board. It has a range of the entire board. You can even fire it at the Horde that is assembling off the board. So there is a number of different things that you can do here, though. You have 3 different kinds of attacks that the trebuchet can launch. And so basically it fires at 2 zones or more away from wherever it is located. So you can't fire at somebody that's exactly adjacent to you, but beyond that, you can hit just about anybody that's on the board or the Horde that is assembling off the board. So basically, you have 3 different kinds of attacks that the trebuchet can launch. You have a scatter shot that, again, the range is all 2 or more. You're going to be rolling for the scatter shot 6 dice, and you need to get 4s or better on those dice. And each of those attacks does a damage of 1. So if you have a lot of regular zombies or runners that are together, then you want to fire at them with the scatter shot, because you're going to be able to have a higher number of hits with a weaker damage level. The grape shot, though, is kind of in between, where you're going to be rolling 3 dice, also still needing 4s or better, but it has a strength of 2 for damage. So you can be doing a lot of damage to those guys that need more than just 1, like your fatties. Well, basically that's what that one's for. It's for your fatties. And then for your abominations, you have a boulder shot that you only roll 1 die. You have to get 4 or better, but it is a strength 3. So if you have that instance where an abomination is by himself, you pretty much want to quote-unquote snipe him with a boulder shot from the trebuchet. But this is another difference between Black Plague and Green Horde, and it's a pretty fun one as well. Now this, not necessarily being a difference between Black Plague and Green Horde, but you are going to be getting 6 new heroes or actors with which you can go through the quests. And you're also going to be getting some new stuff in the item deck. You have falcons or falchions, I don't know how you pronounce that, a great axe, a dwarven hammer, Norse shields, a death gale combat spell that has a strength of 2. You have Ghost Sight, which gives an enchantment. And of course, these are not all of the newer cards. I'm just giving you a general idea of the kinds of new cards that you have in the item deck for Green Horde. You also have these different guys. You have a Middle Eastern themed character, Asim. He starts with Taunt. You can draw zombies away from other people by taunting them from afar. Here, Johannes. He starts with transmutation, so basically he can take stuff that he has and change it into other things. You have Baron, which is a dwarf. He starts with Shove, which basically means that he can take zombies that are in his zone and push them 1 zone away, so that's pretty cool. Here, Megan has double casting. The enchantments that she can cast will be able to have 2 targets instead of only 1. We also have Selly here, who is an elf, and she starts with an ability called Jump. Spend 1 action and then they can move 2 zones into a zone which they have line of sight. So she can jump with 1 action 2 zones away, and that's pretty cool. And then we have Rolf, who is, really just Conan, kind of. He's a little bit skinnier than Conan was, I guess, but that's pretty much Conan. And he has Bloodlust Melee. Now, Bloodlust Melee, we've seen that before on some of these other characters, but he starts with it. And basically, he can spend 1 action and move up to 2 zones as long as he stops in a zone that contains at least one zombie, and then he gets a free melee action to carry out immediately. So that's pretty cool as well. Now, in addition to all those changes, you also do get 9 more double-sided tiles for creating your different scenarios. Now, these different tiles do have some new features to them. For example, you have hedges that are like this. Then you also have water areas that are like that. Now, moving into a water area is not difficult. It doesn't have any type of movement restriction at all. But moving out of one is a little bit more difficult. You have to look at either it's a ledge which has a dark border like these here, or it has this white frothy looking edge that looks like a shoreline. Moving out of a water zone past one of these into a dry land area doesn't cost any extra movement, but going up into one of these ledges going this way, that does cost some one extra point of movement. When you move from one water area into another water area, like from here to here, you have to spend an extra movement to do that as well. Basically, this water is waist deep. So it's not like you're just tiptoeing through the water. You are sludging through this stuff. Zombies can't cross a ledge. They can move through the water, no problem. Actually, there's no penalty necessary to go through a bank like this or to go from one water zone to the next. There's no penalty at all, but they cannot go up ledges. So that does hinder their movement a little bit as well. But as you can see, these are all double-sided areas, and everything else is pretty much just like it was with Black Plague. With the exception of these hedges, there are also barriers that can be placed. For example, something like this. And what would happen here is it actually restricts the movement of the zombies and survivors both. They don't block line of sight, but zombies do have to try to find a way around. For example, if this is their destination zone, they have to find a way around this. If they can't, they attack this and destroy it before they actually move. Survivors can fire through it, but they can't move through it. So barriers are pretty cool. On the other side, it has hedges as well. Another rule with hedges is that if you walk through a hedge, for example, from this space to that space, you'll have to roll a die. And if you roll a 1, one zombie will show up here. Basically, it's just a walker that's been roaming around that you didn't previously see because these hedges do block line of sight. So first of all, the biggest change in my opinion, and the one that I like the most, is the trebuchet. And I think beyond the shadow of a doubt, I'll be using the trebuchet in some of our other Black Plague games, because I just think it's really a neat experience to have one person or a number of different people at different times throughout the game be able to have those kind of artillery strikes on other parts of the board. I think it'll give a little bit of hope where before there might not have been a whole lot of hope. Plus, on top of that, the miniature looks really good. They did a great job of getting all that nice detail into the wooden planks and that type of stuff. So I like the trebuchet. I really enjoy that a lot. In addition to that, I do actually like the fact that the orcs are a little bit more tough. And I love the assembling the Horde mechanism that's used in this game. That just really kind of provides a little bit of a timed aspect, because if that thing hits and it's a huge group, yeah, that's pretty much it. But now we can go through and just hack and slash our way through that and try to win, even though it looks very grim. The water holes are something that I thought was a cool thematic part of this expansion. I like that, because we watch these zombie shows, right? And there's always that pool of water, and you don't know if there's going to be this nasty bloated zombie in there or not. And so it's thematically cool that when a survivor is walking through that wastewater, he's not just trying to run through it, he's wading through it, maybe going a little bit slower because, you know, if that nasty bloated zombie pops up, he's going to want to be able to take care of it. And so having to take an extra action to move through the water is cool. Now, speaking about the models, this is actually going to be one of the cons that I enter into here because while the models were all good, and I think it's definitely what you can expect from CMON, there was a mishap, I think, in designing the runners in Green Horde because the runners don't really look that much like runners. They do have more pointy ears than the rest of the orc models because they're basically goblins. They're not orcs. And now they are smaller as well than the regular orc models. So there is some differentiation, but before with Black Plague, the runners were in a running stance, and they definitely, you could tell where the runners were. This one, it's a little bit more difficult. I think all in all, that this is a great expansion to Zombicide Black Plague. I don't think that it is a good point of entry for the Zombicide Black Plague genre of Zombicide. I think it's a little too convoluted to be an entry point for the game. But I think it's a great expansion for Black Plague. The fact that it's standalone for me is neither here nor there. I don't think that it's so difficult that people aren't going to be able to grasp the game. But I think there's a lot of nuances in this that aren't in Black Plague that I think make this a little bit more of a convoluted entry point. Now, my rating for Zombicide Black Plague is at 8 out of 10, and I think that's pretty much where this one's going to fall as well. It doesn't raise my liking of the Black Plague or Zombicide system, but at the same time, it doesn't hurt it anymore at all. So that is going to be an 8 out of 10 for me for Zombicide Green Horde. I really did enjoy it. It has enriched my liking of the game. It just hasn't made it any better. I guess when you enrich something, you are making it better, aren't you? But I hope you get what I mean. There's more volume to it, but I still like it the same. So that's it for Zombicide Green Horde. I hope that you found this informational because that was my whole goal here. I wanted to show you everything you got in the box and then give my thoughts on some of those nuances that Green Horde brings. But a great expansion to Green Horde. And while it stands on its own 2 feet, I think that's where it will fall. That's the role that it will fall into with most people as an expansion to Black Plague. But that's it from me for Zombicide Green Horde. We'll see you guys on the flip side.